Could methylglyoxal be causing elevated fasting glucose in low carbers?
Hi, I'm Chris Masterjohn, and I have a PhD in nutritional sciences. I am not a medical doctor, and nothing contained in this episode may be construed as medical or nutritional advice of any kind, or a substitute therefore. This episode is meant purely as scientific education. If you wish to act on any ideas presented in this episode, please consult your physician first, and never take anything herein as a reason to contradict medical advice. With that said, enjoy the episode.
Anonymous says, if methylglyoxal inhibits glycolysis, could an accumulation of methylglyoxal cause the high fasting glucose we see in long-term low carbers? Yes. I've covered I did my doctoral dissertation in methylglyoxal, so I've covered it in a lot of different contexts. And the basic story is, we know that diabetics have high methylglyoxal levels. We know that diabetics have high methylglyoxal-derived advanced glycation end products. And we know that this is true even when they're treated. Now, that raises the question, does diabetes cause methylglyoxal to increase, or does methylglyoxal cause diabetes? And the answer is both. We know from animal experiments that if you administer methylglyoxal once, you will cause acute hyperglycemia. We know from animal studies that if you administer methylglyoxal like intravenously or intramuscularly, I forget which they did, chronically, within a month, you will cause full-fledged diabetes. In fact, you'll cause diabetes so severe that you will have type 2 diabetes that evolves into type 1-like diabetes with exhaustion of pancreatic beta cell insulin secretion. We also know that insulin resistance will cause methylglyoxal to rise because insulin suppresses methylglyoxal generation from glycolysis by stimulating an enzyme called GAPDH and clearing the triose phosphates that generate methylglyoxal through the glycolytic pathway. We know that insulin stimulates the glyoxylase enzymes, which get rid of methylglyoxal. We know that insulin stimulates the synthesis of glutathione, which is used by the glyoxylase enzymes to get rid of methylglyoxal. And we know that insulin suppresses ketogenesis and CYP2E1. And CYP2E1 takes acetone derived from ketogenesis and converts it in a two-step process into acetal and then to methylglyoxal. So insulin suppresses and you can also derive methylglyoxal from the amino acid threonine, and threonine converts to methylglyoxal when free coenzyme A is limiting in the liver. And generally, coenzyme A is going to be more limiting under conditions of fat burning than under conditions of carbohydrate burning, because the demand for CoA is somewhat higher when burning fatty acids. So insulin suppresses the generation of methylglyoxal from every single source known, and it also stimulates the clearance of methylglyoxal through two independent mechanisms. So why do diabetics have high methylglyoxal levels? Because methylglyoxal causes diabetes, and because diabetes causes high methylglyoxal both. And so, then the question is, well, what does long-term low carb do to methylglyoxal? Well, it remains the case that one uncontrolled, relatively poorly designed study that told, actually, I think there was a follow-up that corroborated this, but I'm forgetting. But the first study to do this, what they gave people the book, Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution, said, go read this and do it. They went and read that and did it. What happened? Their acetone went up, their acetal went up, and their methylglyoxal went up. So the study design isn't great, but the documentation of every single metabolite in the pathway that generates methylglyoxal from ketone bodies, that they were all raised, the consistency of the biochemistry, I think, to some degree overrides the poor design. It's essentially an observational study, but the biochemical elegance and consistency of mapping the whole pathway out and showing the whole thing increased, to me is pretty convincing that methylglyoxal increased because of increased acetone levels that converted the acetone to methylglyoxal. And you would presume that methylglyoxal might have also been cleared less actively because of lower insulin, but you can't really prove it because they didn't look at glutathione or glyoxylase enzyme expression, but that's probably also true. And so, could you see higher fasting glucose in low carbers because of that? Probably their methylglyoxal levels are higher. And if their methylglyoxal levels at fasting are higher, that's probably going to cause hyperglycemia to some extent. So I don't think that's the only thing going on. I do think that glucose disposal is going to decrease on a low carb diet. I do think that in some cases, cortisol is going to rise on a low carb diet. And both those things can raise blood glucose. So I don't think it's the only thing going on, but I do think it would be surprising if it wasn't a contributor in the cases where that occurs. So thank you, Anonymous, for your question.
This episode was part of a Q&A for members of the CMJ Masterpass, a buyer's club with exclusive and massive discounts on your favorite premium foods and health products, including pasture-raised and wild meat and seafood, supplements, sleep accessories, water filters, phototherapy devices, and much more. As a bonus, you also get to participate in monthly private Zoom Q&As with me. You can join the Masterpass at chrismasterjohnphd.com/masterpass and use the code Q&A, spelled out as Q-A-N-D-A, Q&A, for a 10% lifetime discount.
From now through February or March, whatever it takes to get it done, I will be working full-time on finishing my Vitamins and Minerals 101 book, while reserving a portion of my time for my consulting clients. You can pre-order my book at chrismasterjohnphd.com/book. In my consulting, I am neither a medical practitioner nor a coach. I serve as your data analyst and your strategist. I teach you scientific principles of health and wellness, help you analyze your data, and help brainstorm actionable strategies. You can sign up for a consultation at chrismasterjohnphd.com/consultations. I will try to respond to comments here when I can, but my presence will be intermittent while I'm finishing my book. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next episode.